All right, hey, triggered. Let's just do a list of triggers here, and you can just see which ones maybe are little things that trigger you. Thanks, Kent. Maybe here's a couple, right? What about, this is one that triggers me, people who like their own posts on social media. It's like, that triggers me. I'm like, if you've got 13 or 14 likes, it doesn't matter. Just don't like your own stuff. Well, what about, this is just a venting session maybe, but well, what about people who the only thing they post about on social media is stuff they should be sent in a private message? Like, you don't need to tell your spouse or your partner how incredible they are over and over on social media. Like, DM them. Like, we don't need to see it. Well, what about those people that are driving slow in the fast lane? Like, oh, come on, that's annoying. What about when you write that long, thoughtful message and all you get is a K? Is that triggering? People who don't mute themselves on Zoom calls and they have a truckload of background noise going on. Or that person walking along in public talking on speakerphone. It's like, we don't care about your conversation, man. Like, keep it private. People who leave one square of toilet paper on the toilet roll and just leave the bathroom. Or they take the last Tim Tam and leave the packet in the pantry. Come on, I've got more. People who you're telling someone something really, really excited about, a new book you're reading or a TV show you've watched, and they're like, seen it. You're like, get you. Well, what about when someone stands too close to you? You're like in a queue. You're like waiting for those machines at New World, and there's like someone who's like right up against you. You're like, bro, there's like 20 meters here. You do not need to be that close. People who don't say thank you when you hold the door open or when you stop to let them across the crossing. Does that trigger you? What else have we got? That's enough. But let's go to a different kind of list now, right? Because those ones are a little bit of fun, and they're sort of feelings that we all experience, and we've all got those little things that trigger us in a way that they shouldn't. But here's a few more real ones, a few that have a bit more weight to them. Like some financial stress. You're working harder, but you feel like you're getting nowhere as the cost of living just keeps going up. Or maybe you're feeling unheard or dismissed when you're trying to communicate something important. Or you're in a meeting or a conversation with a few people and you're being consistently interrupted or talked over. When there's a perceived injustice, especially when it involves people that can't defend themselves. Or maybe when you feel like you're being controlled or micromanaged at work. Or maybe there's just a little bit of broken trust in a relationship, in a workplace, or maybe from an institution. Maybe it's when you're being compared unfavorably to others, or when you're feeling invisible or undervalued despite your efforts. Or maybe it's when traffic and time pressures creating consistent low-level stress that's just always there. Maybe it's pressure you're feeling to be always on digitally, replying to those messages and emails. Maybe it's uncertainty about the future, jobs, housing, prospects for yourself, prospects for those who are closest to you. So that's a different feeling, right? Because they're heavier, but they're just as triggering. We went from laughing about toilet paper and packets of Tim Tams to feeling the weight of things that are going on in real life. And here's what's interesting though, like our bodies, our natural reaction can be the same to both lists, although one's more funny and like, the other's heavy and serious, when we can have that same internal response sometimes to both. And that's what we mean by being triggered. Like earlier this week, I was just got home from work one day and I was sitting on the couch, and I'm actually heading away for a few days this week, so I felt like, man, my workload was real big because I had to get through a whole lot of stuff. There was a couple of like delicate situations going on that you know, what I'm saying, you're trying to deal with it, and then everything was a little bit crazy at home, and I'm like, man, I just want to sit down and enjoy some peace for a couple of moments. And as I sit on the couch, one of my kids comes running up and jumps on me and just starts talking to me. And then she's excited and she's cool and she's lovely and she's talking and I'm like, and then my phone beeps and I get a message and it's to do with one of these delicate situations that's going on. And then all of a sudden I'm like, just go away. Like well beyond like how I should respond to her closeness, to her proximity. I just go, man, get away from me. Just give me some space. Because I had to reply to this message. And then in that moment, my tonality wasn't where it should be. Like she's just the young kid who's excited because dad's come home from work and she can have a little bit of attention. And then here I am just overreacting to her doing what really is probably like a normal little kid thing to do. And here's the reality, right? Here's the truth was, it had nothing to do with how close she was or that she was asking me the same question for the third time in a row. It's never really is about the little things. Her proximity, her being there was just the match, but the fuel that brought this out was all the heavier stuff that I'd been carrying. And here's what's true for us, right? We all experience this. But when we do, we think, man, I'm broken. I'm the only one who overreacts like this. If I was just more spiritual, if I was just more mature, if I was just a better person, I wouldn't have that reaction. We just think, man, I shouldn't be this way. But here's what I want us to discover. Here's what I want us to know is the fact that we're not broken. We're just human. And the truth is, as we go through the series Triggered, the first thing we've got to understand is why we react, because that's the first step to us finding some freedom. And then over the next few weeks, we're going to dive into this thing about being triggered and how it affects every single one of us. See, it's really interesting to look at our reactions to things, because oftentimes it's how we react to things in the moment that really paint a picture of who we truly are. Because it's when we haven't got the time to think about what we're going to say. It's when we haven't got the time to process and do things the way that we know we should do them. It's those reactions can often highlight sometimes the biggest gaps in terms of our formation and who we're becoming. And we're going to talk about this and how we can actually change, not through willpower, not simply through trying harder, but through understanding what's really going on below the surface and countering that and dealing with it. Because here's sort of the big idea for the series that we're going is just this reality that God has designed us with emotions, but we don't have to be controlled by our emotional reactions. God's designed us with emotions, but we don't have to be controlled by our emotional reactions. And so today we're just going to just dive into briefly, why do we react the way that we do? Why do we react the way that we do? Because all of us have emotional defaults. Think about your last big reaction, right? Don't tap the person next to you. You don't need to give them insight into their last emotional reaction. No, that's not going to help anyone. But think about your own last emotional reaction. Maybe it was anger, just an outburst. Maybe it was just a building up of anxiety going on there. Maybe it was withdrawal. Maybe it was just going above and beyond to people please those that are around you. Maybe it was just an overwhelming sense of defensiveness. Maybe it was when you shut down. But here's what's crazy. Our reactions happen faster than we can think about it, right? That anger came on out of nowhere. All of a sudden, you went from being just a little bit worried to overly anxious. You went from being like, I don't know if I want to be here, to just totally withdrawn. But it happens so fast. Neuroscientists, they call this emotional hijacking. It's when our amygdala, the emotional center of our brain, it fires before our prefrontal cortex, the rational part can even engage, and it just happens. And so in these moments sometimes, we're not choosing to react, it's just this initial response. We're kind of like running on autopilot. And to understand this a little bit, we really have to look into some of our wiring. Because oftentimes when we're in this space, most of us, we default to one of these unhealthy responses. The first one is we can be reactive. Reactive. I can't help how I feel. And this is where we say things like, it's just who I am. I've just got a short temper. I'm just an emotional person. And the result of being in this sort of reactive space is we're controlled by our reactions, as if we've got no agency, we've got no choice over what we do. The second unhealthy way we can respond to this stuff is being suppressive. We beat ourselves up. I shouldn't feel this way. Maybe you're like, man, I've been a Christian for 20 years. I shouldn't be like this. Or you get to that place and you just start beating yourself up. Man, I'm a terrible person. I'm a terrible person for feeling like this. So sometimes we just think, I need to push this down and pretend that I'm fine. But the result of us doing this is we're controlled by shame. Emotions, they come out sideways in passive aggression, maybe in physical things that we do, and often an eventual absolute explosion. We can also blame. This is where we say this is totally someone else's or something else's fault. If they would just change, I would be okay. They made me react that way. I wouldn't be like this if he wasn't like that. Again, the result when we blame, when we're pushing everything out, is we're powerless. The solution's always outside of us, so we never change. And then the fourth way that we often can deal with this is just by numbing it. I don't want to feel this. So maybe we just scroll social media looking to take it away. Maybe we watch Netflix. Maybe we go and grab another bottle of wine or a bottle of beer. Maybe we just start eating way too much. Maybe we go and just jump back into those online shops and buy a few more things to make us feel a little bit better. Maybe we just get so busy doing more stuff at work to try and hide all of that, but we just sort of numb what's going on. And the result from numbing is this, right? Is just that temporary relief. But the trigger remains because we're trying to run from ourselves. But the problem is everywhere we go, there we are. And so the question has to be, well, what if there's a better way? What if there's a healthier way? Because all of those four responses that we often default to, they keep us stuck. But what if there's another option, a way where we're firstly aware of that emotional sort of reaction that's going on inside of us, and we're then able to influence our behavior when that sort of feeling kicks in. A healthier way that acknowledges both that we cannot control the emotional response that we have, that we feel, but we can control what we do with them. That's what we're going to call being emotionally responsive through the series. Responsive means, being emotionally responsive means I can respond to my emotions rather than react. See, God designed us with emotions. The problem isn't that we have emotions, it's that we don't understand them, and what we don't understand can often control us. When we become emotionally responsive, man, we discover that we're not a victim of those emotions. We don't need to be reactive. We're not drowning in shame because we can be honest with ourselves about what we're feeling, so we're not suppressing anything. We're taking responsibility, not blaming something or someone. And we're facing those emotions honestly. We're not numbing them away. We're free to respond rather than being controlled. See, there's a little passage in the Psalms where David writes about how God formed us, and I think this is a very well-known passage in Christian circles. But I'm going to read it because I know there's going to be a whole lot of people here, and you've never heard this before, and it's absolutely beautiful. And maybe you have heard this. Just stay with me because I promise you, you're going to hopefully see something in a slightly new light here today. But this is what's written in Psalm 139. It says, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place. When I was woven together in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be." I hung in this little passage. I just want to just give you just three quick little truths about our emotional sort of DNA, the way that we were wired. And the first one is just that we were designed with emotions. We were designed with emotions. Look at verse 13. It says, "You created my inmost being." Doesn't that be where our emotions sit? Literally our inner parts, where those emotions are, our ability to feel. God didn't mess up when He made us emotional creatures. Think about it, right? God made us in His image. God has emotions. He loves, He grieves, He rejoices, He even gets angry. If you look at the life of Jesus, you'll see that Jesus wept, that Jesus felt compassion. He even expressed anger at injustice. Our capacity to feel deeply isn't a bug, it's a feature. God put it into us. The problem isn't that we have the emotions, the problem is what we're doing with them. Second truth that we see in this little passage is that our wiring is unique. I think this is one of the things that's so often overlooked in this psalm, and this psalm's used a lot, and I want to be a little bit mean here, but it's especially used by female youth leaders who want to encourage teenage girls, right? Like, I don't think there's a female youth leader who has never sent a message to a teenage girl says that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and all the teenagers are laughing because that's the message they got from the youth leader, and that's cool, and it's powerful because it's so important. And we often use this to say to someone, hey, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, you're awesome. But I think the power in this, the psalmist is saying, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Do you see the difference? There's the sense of like, I know this to be true about me. And the reason we often share this verse is because we want other people to know it's true about them. And oftentimes, it's easier to see this truth in someone else than it is to see it in ourselves. Because we look at someone else and we see how amazing they are, and we see how incredible they are. And then when we look at ourselves, we see all the imperfections and all the things that we do wrong and all the the yuck and that's there. And so oftentimes when you're trying to encourage someone who you know is looking in the mirror and all they're seeing is the yuck stuff and not seeing the good stuff, it's like, I know exactly what I can say to encourage you. You are fearfully and wonderfully made, and it's a beautiful thing. And female youth leaders, keep encouraging teenage girls with it. It's good. But something powerful happens when you and I realize, when we get to a point where we say, now I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I'm not better than you. I'm not perfect. I haven't got everything together. I still lose it when it comes to my kids sitting close to me on the couch sometimes. But there's a change in us and we can say, no, there is something special about me. He says, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. There's something about you specifically. It's not generic. It's not cookie cutter. You've been fearfully and wonderfully made. And the truth is, you are unique. Not everyone reacts the same to everything because God has wired every one of us uniquely. Some of us, man, we're wired more intensely. Some of us, we're wired more analytically. Some of us are wired more cautiously. Some of us are wired more boldly. And you just think of some of the people that you know, right? Like, again, it's easy because I've got 6 kids. I've got a sample size of 6 that I can see all the time. And it's amazing watching their responses to things and the way that they engage with different things. I've got one of them who's a real thinker and who's really, really cautious. And we will do something and she'll be scared because her sister is like not worried about anything. She'll just go and do it and just be into it. And I said, man, you're so much more cautious than... And she looks at me like every little kid does and goes, is that a bad thing? I said, well, it's not good or bad, it's just a thing. I'm like the chances of her getting injured and hurt are way higher than the chances of you getting injured and hurt. You're not going to get injured and hurt because you think things through and you're not going to do something that's got as much danger. Your sister, she's probably going to get hurt and she's probably going to get injured because she's going to do things without so much caution. But even though she's more likely to get hurt and injured, she's probably also likely to have a little bit more fun sometimes because she's going to do something and realize it's amazing and you're going to miss out on that because your caution is going to stop you. So it's not good or bad. It's just the way that things are, that people are different. And then that stuff is just kind of sitting there, right? That's before we even factor in stuff like our past experiences, the family patterns that we grew up in, our personality traits, the season of life that we're in. There's all this stuff that plays into it. All of us are unique. And the third thing that comes through here, and it's just this idea that our understanding leads to us responding. And in verse 16 it says, God saw our unformed bodies. He knows how you're wired. He knows before you even came into being, He knows how you're wired. He understands you even before you understand it yourself. And He's invited you. He invites us in to understand it too. And then there's an incredible example that we see of this understanding leads to responding that James writes about. And in the letter that James wrote. In James 1:19, he says this. This is challenging. Like there's enough in this that like if we just take this away and hold on to it, like there's enough gold in these next few words that like, man, this is enough for this series. He says this, everyone. Do you know who's included in everyone? Yeah, you're definitely the person sitting next to you because that's who you're worried about, but also you, right? Everyone. You don't get a pass. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to sleep, slow to speak. Maybe if I was a little slower to speak, I would have got that right. Slow to become angry. Quick to listen. Slow to speak, slow to anger. It's like how God never, notice this is a real interesting point for some of you. God doesn't say never get angry. He says just take your time getting there. Some of us, we get there way too fast. And there are things in this world that should cause an anger inside of us when you see people being mistreated. When you see people hurting others, when you see things like racism, sexism, stuff like that, should cause injustices, should cause an anger to well up in us. There's nothing wrong with becoming angry. But it should be a marathon to get us there, not just a sprint. It should take time for us to get there. But here's the truth, right? We can't be slow to something if we don't understand it. If that anger's controlling us, we're going to get there straight away. But if we understand what's causing, if we understand what's bringing it, it allows us to take our time to get there. If you don't know what triggers you, if I don't know what triggers me, man, we can't manage it because it just happens automatically, repeatedly. Quickly, over and over and over. And sometimes what triggers us can actually get faster and faster and faster and faster because it keeps happening. But as we develop, as we find the tools to develop the self-awareness to see it, man, we're in a position to respond rather than to react, to choose what comes out of our mouth rather than just let words fly out. Do you know the best thing I ever heard about words coming out of our mouth is like this? Said our words are like toothpaste. Once they come out, you can't get them back in. You know that to be true. Right? You get that toothpaste out of that flipping thing and you take too much, there's nothing you can do with it but flush it away. You just cannot get toothpaste back into the... And it's the same with our words, right? When those words come out, we can apologize. We can ask for forgiveness. We can say what I really meant was. We can do all of this stuff, but the truth is once those words are out, we cannot put them back in. And we know the pain that they've caused. We know the pain that other people's words have had on us. We've seen the broken relationships that because of our words that have come out quickly on others. So here we are, right? The fact that you, the fact that I, the fact that we get triggered, it's universal. We're not broken. But we can learn to respond rather than react when we're triggered. And we're going to talk more about this over the coming weeks. The fact that we get triggered is universal. And then here's where I just want to take us today, just to wrap this up. The fact that we get triggered is universal, and those triggers reveal what it is we truly idolize in life. So you see, the deeper issue here, the deeper thing that our triggers point to, is they really do reveal those things that we idolize in life, those false gods that we potentially look to, or we're actually looking to. See, here's what happens when you and I get triggered. Our emotions reveal what it is we're really worshipping, what's really most important to us. Our reactions show us what we've made ultimate, what we think we need to be okay. See, maybe it's control, that things should go my way. Maybe it's approval, that people should respect and like me. And when I'm not getting that respect, that's what triggers me. When I haven't got control, that's what triggers me. Maybe it's comfort. I shouldn't have to deal with this. When those things, those idols, those false gods are threatened, we don't just feel emotion, we're triggered because our functional Savior is under attack. See, when we get defensive, like overly defensive about criticism, it's because our false God approval is threatened. We need people to think well of us for us to be okay. When we withdraw in conflict, it's because our false God of comfort is threatened. And we need peace at all costs to feel okay. See, these aren't just bad habits. These aren't just things that we want to deal with in like a psychological, emotional level. Because beneath them, these are spiritual issues. They're theological. They show us what it is we truly prioritize, what we idolize, what we say is most important. But here's what the message of Jesus teaches. Here's what the message of Jesus demonstrates. This explains why we're triggered the way we are, but then it also helps us realize that we don't have to be triggered the way that we are. See, the message of Jesus is this, that you and I, that we are more sinful, we are more flawed than we ever dared believe. That's why some of those little triggers set us off so much, because we're flawed, we're broken. There's a sinful aspect to us. We are way worse than we ever did believe. But at the same time, we are more loved and we are more accepted in Jesus than we ever dared hope. See, in Jesus, we find acceptance. So if rejection is one of those things that's always triggering us, man, it's just a little bit of rejection there, and it triggers us. When we realize that in Jesus, I'm so accepted, I can't understand it. See, in Jesus we can find purpose. We can find status. Because my status is no longer tied to how much money I've got, what positions I've got, what job title I've got. My status is found in Him. My identity is found in Him. When I can discover that He is my comforter, I don't need to hold on to this false God and idolize comfort, because, man, Jesus is my comforter. It changes everything. It positions me not to let those things that have so much weight that I idolize in my life draw out this response. Because all of a sudden, I'm not looking for those in the people that are around me or the circumstances and the situations around me, because I've actually found them in something so much more secure, something so much more powerful. You see, Jesus himself, he faced the ultimate triggers without losing his identity, because his identity was secure in terms of his relationship with his Heavenly Father. Jesus was betrayed by his friends, and he was secure. He was mocked and he was tortured, yet he was secure. He was fully abandoned, and he was secure. Why? Because he had nothing to prove, he had nothing to protect, he had nothing to perform for. And here's the reality is, through Jesus, that same security is ours. You're fully loved. You're fully accepted. Your worth isn't up for debate. When we really understand, and we really come to learn, and we really come to appreciate, and we can know, like the psalmist knew they were fearfully and wonderfully made, when we can know that we're secure in Christ, man, those triggers, those things that bring the out of us, that we don't like about ourselves, out of us, they lose their power. Because the things that we're trying to protect, man, Jesus has already secured them for us. So here's just a little bit of takeaway work, a little bit of application, a little bit of something I want you to do this week. The first is this. As you go through this week, I want to encourage you to identify your triggers. I want you to write down what triggers you, and I want you to be specific about it. Don't write when people are rude. Rather write when my 14-year-old rolls her eyes at me. Don't just write when I'm stressed. Just go a little bit deeper. When I have back-to-back meetings with no break at all. See, awareness of our triggers starts with naming them. We've got to get specific. First thing we're going to do this way, I want to encourage you to do this. Don't roll your eyes at me now. Identify your triggers, get specific. When you feel that, just go, well, why? Why is this doing something in me? Second part, a little bit harder. Ask yourself, what am I protecting? What am I protecting? When we become aware of what's triggering us, okay, what's behind that? What feels threatened in this moment? What am I afraid of losing? What do I think I need to be okay? Well, what's attacking maybe my significance or my security or my satisfaction? So as we start to get to this layer, we start to say, okay, what is really, really going on here? And third thing that I want you to do is I want you to bring it to God. I want you to bring it to God. And I know in this room, there's a lot of people here, and you pray all the time, and you know exactly how to pray. But I know there's also a few that are like, I've never prayed before. Well, how do I talk to God? Honestly, the easiest way to talk to God is just pretend he's like your friend who's right next to you. Just pretend he's there. Good friend. Talk to him. Don't do it in public. You look stupid. Just do it in your head. He can hear. Do it out loud if you're by yourself. That's cool. But just talk to him like he's your friend. And here's something you can pray, right? I'll make it real easy for you. If you need to, take a photo. I'll see if we can get this put up on social media or something. But pray something like this. God, I see what I'm making ultimate. I've been looking to. And then fill in that thing, whatever it is, whether it's control, approval, comfort, success. I've been looking to this to make me feel okay. But the truth is, I'm already okay because of Jesus. Help me find my security in you instead of control, approval, comfort, whatever it may be. Amen. So what we're going to do, we're going to identify. And what's triggering me? We're going to ask, okay, well, what's below this? What's bringing this out of me? And when we've done that, we're going to bring it to God and say, okay, God, help me. Help me. I'm looking for this, but actually in you I can find that. Help me understand that. Help me know that. And just, let's see what God does. We'll keep talking over the next few weeks, but hey, please, take some time. Identify those triggers. Go below the surface. Speak to God about it.